Hey, so it's been a crazy couple of weeks and I haven't really had a chance to do a review video on these yet. The last video I put out, I fixed these two, built them out of a bunch of other parts that I had laying around. And honestly, since then, a few things have happened, including losing this one for a week. I was trying to use that one as my daily driver, and I ended up leaving it at a client, and a lot of other stuff going on. I actually did end up filming a bunch of different videos that I'm probably not going to put out, just way too stressed, didn't come out well. So we're going to try just going through a quick review of these two palms after I've been using them a little while. Okay, so first of all, the M130. So overall, pretty decent little machine. At first glance, it is kind of, you get some creaking, it feels kind of light. It's not the kind of quality feel you get used to with some of the other palms. I did find another replacement case for it, case lid. I know these do tend to break over time. And in mine, the battery is actually rattling around, which is why I stopped carrying this one around. I gotta go in there and glue it. They do tend to crack. They're not the most durable. The case is supposed to be customizable, so they sold different colors. I haven't seen too many colors floating around. And it does have just one of the cheap plastic styluses as opposed to the kind that come on some of the other palms, where they're heavier metal. They have, you know, a reset pin that you can unscrew. This one has no reset pin that it comes with, so if it gets frozen and you're out and around, you have to go find a paper clip or mechanical pencil or something to jam in there. So all that sounds like that's basically all the bad stuff out of the way. On a good note, compared to an OS3 palm, this one has the, I want to say 33 megahertz Dragon Ball TZ, Dragon Ball VZ, that's it. Okay, so I just looked up the M130 has the Motorola Dragon Ball VZ processor, like I was saying earlier, and it's operating at 33 megahertz. So compared to some of these older palms with the Dragon Ball EZ, which I think is operating at 16 megahertz, and that's what some of the older, like the M100 and that have that processor or a variant of it, you can either get 8 or 16 megahertz processors. And so that's why, I mean, playing games on this one, you get a lot better performance from the CPU because it's about twice as fast. But I've got my 3C here for comparison. So it is much faster, and I'll demonstrate that in a second. The screen, it is the so it's a CC-STN screen versus a TFT screen. So it's a cheaper kind of screen. They used them in a lot of different, and both of these have basically exactly the same screen on them. They're the same resolution. However, this one, you can see the contrast isn't quite as good indoors. Colors are a little bit better on this TFT screen. You can probably see it from a better angle there. If I were to turn this one, it all but disappears. And this actually, I want to say, oh, it only has the 2 brightness settings, but these are reflective. They use the same technology for some of the monochrome screens, and so when you're outdoors, this one is going to look a lot better. And it's cheaper to make, and it uses less power. This one, on the other hand, it looks great inside, but when you get outside, you're going to have a really hard time seeing anything that's going on. So I just wanted to go over real quick before this one dies. Gaming. Let's face it, games are going to be a lot of what we want to do on these anymore. So you can see I can even switch it to color. It's a little messed up. It moves pretty quick. But you can see on the demo, the refreshing, I mean, you get some terrible ghosting on these screens, and it just gets really, really hard to look at. They've got a lot of display lag, and they're really, you know, honestly, I tried for a little bit to play this game on here, and it'll give you a headache in a couple of minutes. I tried different contrast settings, but it's really that refresh rate. I mean, other than that, the screen looks pretty good for an STN screen. but not really one I'd recommend if this is the kind of game that you're going to want to do. On the other hand, so let me compare to this one. You can kind of see some of the speed difference. First of all, loading is going to take a lot longer. And I have the graphics turned all the way down on this guy, but you can still see a little bit of jerkiness, lower frame rate. But on the other hand, look how much better that looks as far as all of the ghosting is completely gone. It handles the game way better. That being said, the 3C has a much slower processor, so if I were to enable anything, so if I go to display here and go textured, I guess that's probably not going to work in black and or in grayscale. But if I go to, like, let's say full detail, anything, particles, whatever, you can really start to see it slow down. Gets kind of choppy. And you're not going to have that problem as bad on something with a faster processor like these other Palm devices. So now on the other hand, the Zire 31. So both of these are going to look pretty similar at first glance. Very similar screens, very similar layouts. You get the SD card, which you do not get on the older OS 3 devices. None of them support it. But you get an SD card. You get an SD card on this one as well. The difference with this guy is with the Zire 31 is you also have this headphone jack and you have a standard USB connection. So on the 31, you'll notice right away, if you've looked at Palm a lot, you'll notice things look a little different than the other kind, and that's because this actually has OS 5.2 on it, which is a whole different generation. It has an ARM 200 megahertz processor on it, and it'll support playing movies, playing MP3 files, that kind of thing. It does limit some of the games that you can play, some of the older games. We'll try the trial. But on the other hand, the newer games that support it are going to look far better. So you can see some of that ghosting I'm talking about still. But overall, the graphics on this, if you're more into this kind of game, are going to be way it's just a whole different class. And honestly, some of these, personally I think this one looks a little better than the other one. With the higher color, I don't notice the ghosting as bad myself, but you can definitely still see it. So the Palm M130, really, between the two of these, it kind of comes down to what operating system do you like. So the newer Palms do have a few other features. You get this nice agenda view. It's faster. You can play music. You can play videos. Not very high quality, but you can play them. They support a newer level of games, but some of it you don't get as much simplicity. You don't get the older graffiti, your text input here. To me, this is more complicated. Let me see if I can give you an example. So if I was going to write, you see on here, if I was going to write some of the letters they take, like T, I have to do 2 strokes. F, I have to do 2 strokes. A, I have to do it a certain, I have to go around the bottom, do a little curly Q. Where if you compare that to the original graffiti, I'll just show you on the sticker here. You can see up at the top here, I can do most letters in 1 stroke, and a lot of them with very little change in direction at all. And on a tiny little screen, when you've got this teeny little pen, that makes a huge difference to me. I also like some of the simplicity of the older OS, just for organizing. I don't really use some of the advanced features, and I like being able to support some of the older, more simple apps. That said, I actually, as my daily now, have been using the Tungsten E, because this is kind of the more advanced version of this. I want to say they've got either the same or similar processor in them. But you can see this one has a much nicer TFT screen. And excuse my very overdue to-do list here. I haven't actually been staying up to date with this one, but the trick with the Tungsten E is being able to find one with a battery that works. But when you get one that works, the screen is fantastic. This is one of, in my opinion, one of the best looking palm screens you can get. The contrast is beautiful. It's really bright. It's easy to see. You do have to still deal with graffiti too, but you do on the E rather than the E2, you get the correct, or you get the USB, the standard USB connection. So in my opinion, now these days, if you're going to go for Palm and you want a cheap, easily available OS5 Palm, both of these are going to, at the time of this video, run you probably 20 bucks on eBay, if that. I do suspect the market is about to be flooded with E2s because there's somebody selling 400 of them out of Oregon, and nobody's going to use 400 Palms. Those are going to end up back on eBay at 20 bucks a piece. So these are probably going to stay cheap for a very long time. These kind of go up and down. You can find these new in the box. However, I personally think these are a little less quality, and I really don't like that STN, CSTN or whatever screen. It lags. I have a hard time reading it. I would much prefer the bigger, nicer looking TFT screen, personally. So for an OS5 device, honestly, having used this one, I probably won't use one of these guys again for a while. I'll probably be sticking with something with a TFT screen if I'm going to go with a color device. Same thing for the OS 3 and 4 era devices. If you really want something with an SD card and maybe a little bit faster processor, it's not a bad one to have. It does have that annoying universal connection on it. You do have to, worry about some of the plastic issues, but I would much rather go with something like a 3C or even something a little newer. Again, the screen is just far nicer. The input is way easier, and honestly, I think it looks better. Maybe that's just me. So there you go. That's kind of a basic review of the M130 and the Zire 31. So I'll do another kind of in-depth review of the Tungsten E for the next video, and we'll go over some of the games and what it takes to get one of these working, because I actually have 6 of these and I think only 2 of them currently are functional. So but we'll go over that in the next video. So if you thought this was interesting, I guess like or whatever, so that I feel like making more videos. Alright, y'all have a good night.